Hey friends, Michelle here at the intersection of pedagogy and technology. And today what I want to talk about is ways to examine student writing to try to ascertain if they wrote it themselves or if AI played a part in the writing that's been submitted to you. So obviously this is of concern, and I don't need to delve into why this is concerning. Let's just talk about what are some of the ways that we can potentially know if a student plagiarized something from AI or if they actually wrote it. If you play around with ChatGPT for a little bit and have it generate some things, you're going to start to notice a few things with it. You're going to notice that there's a real meter to the way the writing is. So what I would say to that is what you want to be looking for is voice. You're not going to find voice in the writing. You're going to find something that reads more like a manual or a handbook. And that's not to say that it doesn't have description. That's not to say that it doesn't have adjectives and adverbs, those kinds of things. You're just going to find that the sentences run at a fairly repetitive kind of a beat or a gait. And there's not going to be voice. There's not ever going to be a little sentence in the middle that says something like, why is this important? There's not going to be a question in the middle. There's not going to be any kind of reflection. There's not going to be any personal insight. There's no bringing of experience into it. And so the more personal the writing, the more difficult it's going to be for a student to be able to plagiarize that using AI. It's going to lack so much of the rigor that you would expect from a personal response or insights based off of real life experiences. The writing done by AI is going to have either total absence of that or very little of that. But in any case, you are going to be able to have a bit of a feel for if it is or isn't accurate. You're going to have a feel for whether the student wrote that or whether technology wrote that. Another thing you can keep your eye out for is repetitive or redundant phrasing. And certainly we get some of that in student writing when it's actually the student writing, but you're probably going to see more of it in an AI generated piece. Now, that's not to say that everything generated by AI is going to contain this kind of redundancy, but it is something to keep your eye open for, and it's something to actively teach in your classroom. Talk about redundancy in writing, and then have an expectation of your students to not be redundant in their writing. I know I'm really simplifying this, but if it continues to reiterate points and doesn't add anything new, it just kind of cycles the same thing over and over again, you may be looking at something that was AI created. Vocabulary. Something turned into you that's got overly technical or really advanced language in it, more than you would expect your students to know, more than you've taught in class, that could be a bit of a red flag for you, that it may have been AI generated in its output, and it might not be something that your student actually wrote. Which lends me to the idea that it's totally logical for you to have a conversation with the student who may have used the AI. Sit them down, talk to them about what they wrote, and then ask them some comprehension questions pertaining to what they wrote. It's your job to teach the curriculum and assess the curriculum and assess the student understanding of the curriculum. And so if you're talking to a student who can't explain what they wrote, and I'm saying, like, hang on to their writing, sit there with it in your hand and ask them some questions about what they wrote. If they didn't write it, you're probably going to have that sniffed out fairly quickly, because your questions are going to be very tough for that student to answer. And if they can't answer questions about what they wrote, they probably need to redo your assignment. Take a look at the writing style and the consistency. You're going to have writing that they've done in class with pen and paper. You probably have some writing that they've done and submitted at different times to you. And if you're seeing a big discrepancy between what you got before and what you got today, it probably passes the sniff test that this might be written by AI. Now, I've talked at different times about the arms race, and we are definitely in a bit of an arms race right now with the tool being able to do what it can do and output text and output very good text. And then there's the detectors that are supposed to help us determine if it was written by AI or written by a human. And it's one of those, one's going to take a step forward and then the other's going to take a step forward. And so the detection tools might be pretty good for a while, and then they might be not so good for a while, and then they might improve again. But I wouldn't suggest that we can rely on those. I think we have to use our teacher eyes, and we have to trust our judgment that when it feels like a student may have plagiarized from AI, or we can call that agerized, AI-giarism is plagiarism from AI. If we feel like a student has agerized something that they have submitted for grading, there are lots of things we can do. And I really do believe that that conversation with the student to check their understanding of what they wrote is probably our best tool. It leans on that teacher-student relationship. It's face-to-face. There's no technology middleman. It's a conversation between teacher and student, and you're just doing your job. You are assuring that they really, truly understand that curriculum that you've been teaching. And at the end of the day, that's the most important part of what we are tasked with doing. Teach the curriculum, assess the learning of the curriculum. If you've been handed some writing that you feel like is not assessing that they've learned the curriculum, fall back to another plan. Assess a different way. Assess through conversation. Make sure they understand it. You are completely within your rights to do that, and I really do believe that your teacher professional judgment is probably your best tool for determining if a kid has used AI to submit their writing or if they actually wrote it themselves. So I guess what I'm trying to say is trust yourself. You're a professional. You've got this. And you've got this probably better than any AI detector or anything that's out there right now for tools. You have that lens of a teacher. Use it. So I hope this frees you up a little bit to feel a little more at ease with the existence of these tools. They offer us a lot of support as teachers, but they do present this challenge, and you've got this. You totally do. So I hope this has helped, and I hope you have a great day.